Toronto is also thinking of imposing a rainfall tax.
If you buy things from Amazon, if you have to return it, God save you.
Toronto is a very crowded city. The traffic is not that much. Like that frustration kind of builds up slowly and it can affect your personal life. Here our salary increments happen in like 3%, 2%, 4%. It's very rare that somebody will get like a 10% increase, which used to be so common back in India. Some of the technology that these guys use are so far behind. We feel that in India, the technology has progressed so much, especially when it comes to, say, the banking sector.
Hi, Kinds. Welcome back to our channel, Be Caind. This is me, Kriti, and that's my husband, Shrey.
And we've just completed a year in Canada, and we've also completed a year of posting our videos on YouTube. So thanks a lot for your support, for liking our videos so much, and for sharing it with your friends and family. In this video, we'll talk about the goods and bads about our last 1 year in Canada, about how we feel, about what are the things that we miss, and what are some things that we wish we could have improved about this country.
Yes, this video is divided into 3 sections. One where we'll talk about the professional changes that happened with us within this year, the personal changes or personal likes and dislikes, and finally we'll talk about generally what do we like about living in Canada and what we don't.
So before we start the video, in case you haven't subscribed, please hit that subscribe button and also press the bell icon so that you are notified about every time we publish a new video. Before we go into the sections, let us give you a brief background about our journey till Canada so that you know some context. So we both have been working with MNCs in India for about 5+ years. When we got our PR, we both were lucky that our companies offered our roles in Canada. So when we moved here last year in January of 2023, both of us had existing jobs with our organization, so we didn't have to start from scratch. So in that aspect, we were very lucky because we didn't have to start from living in basements and have that starting job and ultimately build our career. We were able to transition smoothly, and now just about 3 months back, we bought our condo in the GTA area, and we are now living our suburban life after spending 1 year in the core downtown and midtown area. So we are shooting this video from our own home, and that's why we can give you some perspective about moving to Toronto as well as living about a year now. So talking about the professional aspect, the first benefit that we have found about living in Canada is the work-life balance. Definitely this was something that was a big pro for us even before we were thinking of moving, and that is true. Most of the time after work, nobody disturbs you during the weekdays, and also weekends, nobody will trouble you. So we have a lot of time to pursue our passion and interest outside of the work. And we also get that time to go for grocery shopping and do everything else.
And also managing home and work life gets easier here. People respect your lunch hours, and I've seen in my office a lot of people have kids and they have a block that they have to go pick up and drop their kid at a certain time. So most of the office folks respect that. Even for me, I do get 1 hour of lunch break, so I can easily cook at home while I can manage my work here and there. So I really like that there's a perfect balance of home and work, and it doesn't get as difficult.
Yeah, and also in office, most people are very respectful towards you, even if you are like, I am a new person on my team, or even when I was a new person, they were giving me that opportunity to learn and understand the role. There wasn't a very stressful environment because I worked in the same company back in India as well. So I did notice that here the job is much less stressful than it was back in India.
And for me, working in a cybersecurity field, the type of work that I have seen here has helped me grow a lot in the career, because back in India, while it's a developing field, while here it's already well developed. So the type of like-minded people you meet and the type of conversations you have within your workspace, they all come from a great cybersecurity background, just helps you grow because of the folks that you have around you. So I feel that between US and Canada, the cybersecurity knowledge and the skill is much more than India. So it helps you grow also in your career and just professionally.
And if I talk about my field, I'm in FMCG or consumer packaged goods, sales and marketing. In India, we had to focus on a lot of things. So we were focusing on the breadth because one person had to do so many different channels and so many different retailers. Like our company used to sell to lakhs of retailers, but here we only have 4 or 5 big retailers like Shoppers, Drug Mart, Loblaws, Costco. So things here are very much on focus on depth. So it's not that one person has to do everything, but say we have to do that one job, but we have to know it in and out. So we have to start from the building block process and then go up. So that's why in India, I used to find that it was more breadth focus, and in Canada, it is depth focus. You become an expert at that one thing.
So now that we've discussed the professional things we like, now let's talk about the personal things that we have learned in this 1 year. So I think the first point I really want to talk about is that's the biggest con that we all are aware of, is that Canada is far off from family, it's far off from our home. So it's difficult to catch up with your relatives or family back in India. One thing that we have started doing together is that we call our parents every day, either during the morning or afternoon time. Morning we talk to Shrey's parents, and in the afternoon time we talk to my parents. So we try to talk to them every single day so that we are connected with them. Just like how we live in separate cities in India, it feels like that, because on video call you feel like they're almost here. But we have applied for their visa now. We went to India last year, and we can't promise that it's possible every year due to work and vacations that you get here, but we are trying that if they can come visit us and spend some time and experience the life that we are living here. And I think that's the closest we can do to bring them around us or near us.
Last year we went to India to celebrate my father's 60th birthday and his retirement, so we were able to be with them in the moments that matter the most. And like Kriti said, we make it a point to speak with them every day, and it's not just superficial topics of how you're doing, and we try to have like a conversation like we were living back in home. So that's something that we try to do. While you're living so far away from your friends and family, the friends that we have here become our family. We have a good small circle now, and we try to do a lot of things together. We keep on meeting each other every 2 to 3 weeks, sometimes at somebody's place, sometimes at somebody else's, and we try to do some activities together, like going for ice skating or skiing or doing bowling. Kriti and I also try to do some things on the side, like going for walks outside, or we went to watch a football game of the Toronto team. So these are some things that we try to do personally outside to ensure that we enjoy our new country.
Also, as most of you know, Canada has a very big Indian ecosystem. We have all the types of cuisines here, grocery stores, we have our temples and other things you can go where you feel like at home. So even though I have lived in the US, I didn't feel as connected to India as I am feeling while I'm in Canada. The Indian community here, as you know, most of the folks are in and around where we are staying are mostly Indians, and then we have all the groceries that are available, so it doesn't feel as much that we are so far off from home.
Whenever there is an Indian festival, we generally go to the temples, and there is a lot of celebrations happening. It feels like you are in an Indian temple itself. So also, any of your interests that you have back that you were doing in India, you will find somebody doing that in Canada as well. Like I used to play cricket a lot when I was in India, so now I found a team here, and I go for practice almost every week, sometimes twice a week. So all these things that you are doing back in India, you can find somebody doing here in Canada as well.
So also one more thing that we like personally is that you become very independent here. As most of you know, we have to do all the chores together, cleaning or cooking. So you become very self-reliant and you learn certain survival skills like cooking. I know how to cook. I've been doing that for most of my life because I generally like cooking and experimenting with different cuisines. So that's not been a problem for us. While when it comes to chores, it's very important if you're living as a couple, you divide those chores between the two so that it's not too much work or load for the one person. So usually in our house, I mostly cook and take care of the kitchen while Shrey does all the cleaning work. So we balance it out very well between us, and I think that's one skill I think everyone should know, because back in India you get too reliant on your maids, which I don't think is nice. It's good that you learn certain skills and you become self-independent. independent.
A lot of guys also need to step up and help their partners if they are not doing, because otherwise it becomes too much for one person, and then that frustration kind of builds up slowly and it can affect your personal life. So definitely help out your partners, do whatever you can. If you want to learn cooking, do that so that you can help with some chopping or things like that. But whatever you can do, try to do it together. That's something which we really enjoy, and I'm blessed that Kriti is a amazing cook. But definitely one of the two partners needs to know how to cook, or at least needs to learn, because otherwise it becomes really expensive to always order from outside. And also we don't know the quality of food that you're ordering, so ensure that you are getting the right ingredients and at least somebody is cooking here. Also, when you come to Canada as a newcomer, there are some places which are free for newcomers and you can use the Canoe app for that. There are multiple places in Toronto and near the GTA area which you can explore. We have made a separate video on Canoe. We will link it down below so that you can check what this app is and you can enjoy the benefits for the first 1 year that you come to Canada as a newcomer.
I think we went to the Railway Museum and
Toronto Zoo.
So we got to learn a lot about things here, which was nice to know.
So now let's talk about every other aspect of living in Canada that we have noticed, some good things that we really like. So first thing is, Canada is a land of immigrants, so we find a lot of diversity both in our workplace as well as outside in the street. Any cuisine that we want to try, we can do that, and people are generally respectful because they also know that Canada is not one culture, it's an amalgamation of so many people coming here and building this country together. Second thing I think we really like is there are a lot of open spaces and nature around. So both when we were living in Eglinton, which was core of the city, and even here now in Etobicoke, we find a lot of parks and open spaces for walks, for going on hiking or walking or cycling, and people do that also a lot. So it's very scenic. Also, whenever we have gone outside Toronto to say Montreal or Niagara Falls, it's a very beautiful country with a lot of nature all around. Another thing that we really like about Canada is that people here generally respect rules. There are rules set in place, especially while we are driving or walking on the road as pedestrians or cycling. People respect that and they give you that privacy and that space, which was really difficult to find, especially in the narrow lanes of Mumbai where we were prior to coming here. And also, while Toronto is a very crowded city, when it comes to maybe comparing to other cities in Canada, the traffic is not that much. Like, it can be difficult to go, especially during office hours, but if Google Maps say it will take 30 minutes, it will take max 35 to 40 minutes. It's not like you start off and it's showing 30 minutes and then suddenly it shows up 90 minutes and you are chock-a-block on one street for 30-40 minutes.
Or even 2 hours.
Yeah. That used to happen with us. We used to live pretty close to the Mumbai airport, and for just like 5 kilometers, it used to take sometimes more than an hour to go. But that way, traffic is relatively manageable here from our experience at least, yeah.
And the other point we really like is the clean, fresh air. There is no pollution, there is no noise pollution. Also, even though we live pretty close to the highway, we close our doors, we hear nothing. It's so quiet. People don't, really honk as much as you hear back in India. The construction noise is not as much either. So the noise pollution is very low, which we really like. You can sleep peacefully, you can work peacefully, and obviously the clean, fresh air, it feels nice. As Shrey told you, we like to go for walks. So when we go outside, we can just feel that freshness and it just really lifts up our mood. So the other thing that I really like is the clean products that you get here. As we know, the type of products and produce here go through a lot of number of quality testing, and they have regular checkups of things that they put on front in the grocery stores here. So even when you get these fruits and vegetables, they are very fresh, and I feel the products generally are much cleaner than we have back in India or even in the US.
Yeah, and my cousin works in food quality in one of the companies, so I know from her experience as well that the test requirements that they have for food quality are very rigorous, and some of the highest standards in the world are maintained for food here.
And also off the bat, one more thing that I noticed was the active lifestyle people have here. even when it's like snowing outside or it's minus 20 degrees, I've seen people wear their shorts and they run, and I've seen them cycling, I've seen them adapting to walks and doing a lot of winter as well as summer sports. So I think that day we went to a park nearby and we saw a couple doing scuba diving in one of the lakes. It was so chilly and we were like amazed to that the types of things people do to stay active here. So I think we really like that. Back in Mumbai also, the active lifestyle was part of some of the folks that we saw, especially if you go in South Bombay, you notice that. But in general, in India, people are not as active. But when you compare it to Canada, I've seen that change a lot. People are fitter, they are more into vegan and clean eating. There are a lot of gluten-free options here as well, and they are generally active. And even when you compare it to US, the obesity rate and the active lifestyle is much better here than compared to US.
Yeah, and I think in India people don't have that much time also on their hands, because especially in Mumbai, your office is say 1.5 hours away from your home, so most of the day you're spending in working and traveling, and then on weekends it becomes really difficult. So I think because of that work-life balance also, people get that time on their hands to do stuff. Even when we went for skiing, there were so many people that were skiing, and small kids like 1-2 years old
were
also
skiing. So I think they start off that culture here of working out and being active since the very beginning, which I think still lacks in India. But I'm seeing some changes. I'm seeing people working out more in India now than back in those days. But I think in Canada it's much more higher. People are very active, which is amazing. So other thing that I like is it's much safer than US. While there are some cases of racism and things like that that keep happening that we can't avoid, but I've lived there and I've noticed the change that even if I go out for walk, I don't feel that unsafe than I used to back in the US. Even my colleagues who work in the US, when they visit us in Toronto, have told me that it's so safe to just come outside and walk here in downtown without any worry of people doing something to you. So I think it's much more safer than US, and it feels much more safer than India also, I feel.
And also there is less racism here because people are from so many different cultures. There are always few isolated instances, but in general people respect you more than what we have noticed in the US.
So in case you think we missed out on some points on things we like and things that you have experienced living in Canada, please comment it in our comment section below and we'll be happy to read about your experiences. So now let's move to the last part of this video where we talk about things that we don't like living in Canada. So the first and the most frustrating thing I would say is the healthcare system here. While it's free, it's amazing, it's so hard to find a family doctor. It's been a year and almost some months that we have been living here. We got a house, but we still don't have a doctor, and the waiting list is so long. I called some of the clinics. They're saying the waiting list is up till 3 years, so please call back after 3 years. Maybe then you will have a family doctor. So it's really hard to find a doctor here.
The next thing that we don't like is some of the technology that these guys use are so far behind. We feel that in India the technology has progressed so much, especially when it comes to say the banking sector or the fintech sector, because like adding a bank account here is so complicated. I opened a bank account with one of the banks and I had to add another account so that I could transfer money. But for that process, it was like I have to go to my bank and then mail some documents to somewhere, and then it will take few business days to add that. And I'm like, in India, it used to be within the day and just sitting at my computer.
You had to fax something, right?
Yeah, for some of the stuff, they are asking us to fax things and like, or for example, when we are sending stuff back, we have to get a return label print out and then send it to Canada Post. So these things, like, I feel technology has progressed far ahead than what they still use in Canada.
Yeah, if you buy things from Amazon and if you have to return it, God save you, because you have to go through either a UPS store or a Canada Post store and then drop that package there. While in India, at your convenience, those folks come in, pick up your packet. And I remember I used to order off Myntra and Amazon India all the time, and things I would return were also so many. So it was so convenient. They would just come to your door, ask for an OTP, and you can just return the package there. And here it's such a chaos. They even charge you extra sometimes.
Amazon has now started picking up returns from your home, but it's very expensive. It's not free. It used to be free in India. The next thing is inflation. You would have heard it a lot. Canada, everything is becoming expensive, especially things like grocery. It's almost double than what it used to be few years ago. Inflation is high in India as well, but there your salary increase year on year also takes care of inflation. But here our salary increments happen in like 3%, 2%, 4%. It's very rare that somebody will get like a 10% increase, which used to be so common back in India. So your salary will kind of be stagnant to what it was. The only way that you can increase it is by switching companies. Like it's impossible that you stay in a same job and you will get a salary hike more than the inflation.
Other point that we don't like is the taxes that they keep adding on everything. So even if you buy something that is on sale, it's of no use because they will charge you a high tax on that, and it's everywhere. It's on groceries, it's on your clothes.
And it's also different than how it used to be in India, because in India the MRP used to be inclusive of tax. Here, because it is added over the top, it feels like you are paying more. Although in India also we know that tax used to be collected, but it was part of that pricing. And now there are more taxes that they are introducing. We just released a video on carbon tax, which has gone up this year. So gasoline is more expensive than it was earlier. And Toronto is also thinking of imposing a rainfall tax so that they can manage storm when it rains. So they are thinking of new ways to take taxes, and that's definitely something that we don't like. Another reason for big inflation is the house prices. They have gone up crazy amount since I think the COVID hit, and it's almost impossible to buy anything, let alone a detached house, which is more than $1 million. Even buying a condo is really difficult unless both the partners are having some down payment or their salaries really above average in Canada. So it's really expensive to buy a house. The ratio of average salary to average house income is the worst in Canada. It's much worse than other countries, even including India and US. So it's really difficult to get a new house, and it becomes really hard to save money unless both the spouses are earning more than 100,000 because the cost of living is so high.
So here what I don't like is that things take a lot of time to come in. We have experienced this with our sofa. We placed the order back in December, and it took 4 months for the sofa to arrive, and this is something we would not even imagine in India or US. So because everything is imported here, it takes a lot of time, and when I was sharing this with my colleagues or friends, they're like, yeah, even our sofa came in 2-3 months. So apparently it's a common thing here that you order things, especially furniture, and it takes 2-3 months to arrive.
And the last point is that there is no innovation in the startup space here. So there is a lot of monopoly here. For example, in telecom, there is only 1 or 2 companies, so they can decide the rate that they want to charge internet, which is really expensive again. Similarly, when it comes to airlines, there are only 1 or 2 options, or banks, there are like 5 big banks, and most of the systems don't get upgraded because they don't need to, because there are no startups. So if the startup ecosystem comes along, it will move the entire economy at a much faster rate, and we hope that things start moving much faster here.
The other thing that we don't like is the increase in home invasion and crime, that it's increasing around car thefts. I think it's become so common. In every 5 minutes there's a car stolen. So those things are a little scary, and it's getting a little out of hand with the type of news we keep seeing.
And the punishment for a car crime is the same as stealing a bicycle in Canada. So that's why the rules are not as strict, so which is why a lot of criminals are back on the street. We made a separate video on this topic as well. We linked it down below so that you know what are some of the increasing problems with car thefts and what are some ways that you can do to protect yourself. Another thing that we noticed a lot, which is very different from India, we don't know whether it's good or bad, is the tipping culture. We are expected to pay 15% minimum.
Yeah.
And now some restaurants start the tipping percentage on their POS machine from 20%.
Yeah.
So it will be 20%, 22% and 25%. So otherwise you have to choose. So sometimes it becomes too much when we are ordering food or going out to pay that much. I know most of the workers are working on minimum wage, but everything is expensive for everybody else as well, and that's something that is different from what it was back in India, and it's a very North American culture, so it takes some time getting used to.
Also, a very famous thing that most of the people don't like about Canada is the weather. It's been a year that we have been living here. The winter was not so bad for us. Luckily, this year it was amazing. It was not that cold at all. But it is definitely unpredictable. If you live in GTA, you know that last week or last few weeks the weather went up into the high 20s and next day it was a snowstorm. So definitely that unpredictability adds a problem to your life if you're traveling for work or you have to travel and plan things around. So that gets a little difficult and weird.
Yeah, and I think people here also plan their life around winter. So, which we started doing last year. We went for skiing, we went for ice skating. So I think as you live in Canada, you have to kind of acclimatize yourself to the weather here and start involving yourself more in winter activities. Otherwise you will always feel that you can't do things for 6 months when it's winter. But there are so many things that you can do. Back when we went to skiing, we didn't notice a lot of Indians coming there. So I think it's something that we can learn and do together and take part in more winter activities here.
So that was all. It's been a year and few months that we are calling this country our new home. While every country has its pros and cons, whether you live in India, Australia or USA, you will face these things here and there. It's just that how you adapt to it, how positive you stay with it, and how you learn to grow with the changes that come along your way. I think that's the only tip we will give you. It has been a very fulfilling, adventurous and important year for us.
Yeah, I just want to say that if you have the right people around you, the place kind of becomes better. So because I have a lovely partner, it becomes easy to live here. So that was a brief just about our 1 year in Canada. In case you agreed with some points, please mention it in the comments. In case you didn't agree with something, it is just our perspective. Your perspective can be definitely different, but please do let us know in comments what you felt about this video. In case you haven't subscribed to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. It will be amazing for us. That's the only way that we seek your support. So until next time, we'll see you very soon. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.